What's so funny?
It's the nails. It's funny.
That's my daughter who put that together.
Well, you got to roll with it. I think you got to get on the ground and roll with your kids because that's the most precious time of your life. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's, throw on some paint and get dirty with your kids. Exactly.
Yeah. And what we're going to talk about today is going to help anybody listening to spend more precious time with the most important people in lives, the people that they love and the people they dig, because the more successful you are, the more time you have.
So John, we talk a lot about influencer marketing. You and I have bantered back and forth about influencer marketing, and you've got your ideas as to how it works. I got my own ideas as to how it works. And when we came together, I think we've done some pretty powerful things together.
Yes, amen.
But let's go back to when I was like 4 years old and you were 30. And you were building Goldmine.
Yeah.
How did you use influencer marketing when it wasn't even a term back then? How did you use it to help build Goldmine?
Well, Mark, imagine back in 1989, there was no Outlook. There was no Salesforce. There was no term CRM, and I invented them both before either existed. And so how do you bring a product to market that people don't even know that they need? There's only 18 hours in the day that you actually be selling, maybe really only 8. And so I had to find a way to access SMB, small business owners, and get them to buy Goldmine. So what I did is I figured out who is the influencer of my prospect, who is the trusted advisor or the person I want to sell to, and I figured out it's the person that sold them the network, the person that sold them the technology that Goldmine could ride on top of. And what I did is I reached out to them and I convinced them to use Goldmine, because people sell what they know and they know what they use. They started to use it. They started to resell it to their customers, and every Novell reseller had 1,000, 10,000 customers they sold a network to, and I had the first networkable relationship platform that helped businesses grow. And that's how we started Goldmine on $5,000 without ever taking a dime of venture, and eventually grew it to nearly $100 million in revenue.
Well, even more impressively, there was no social media back then.
Yes.
So you did it without social media. That must have been a lot of work.
Well, that's
pretty
really
impressive.
the next stage in the story, because after you've signed up 100, 500 resellers and they've sold Goldmine to all their existing customers, then they start saying, hey John, we want leads. Well, first off, Mark, I didn't know how to advertise. Second, I didn't really have a budget to advertise effectively at scale. So what I did is I figured out, where do my prospects and their customers access information about how to grow their business? It's business technology publications, it's technology magazines. And what I did is I reached out to the editors and I said, how can I help you tell more stories? And they said, tell us stories about how companies are using technology to grow. So I just started telling stories, and in the end, we got more print and more awards than all the other products combined. And through the combination of building an army of evangelists, these resellers, and then driving demand into them by telling stories and getting other people to tell those stories, we were able to build a global brand out of Goldmine. So there's this company called Microsoft. You ever hear of them?
A couple times.
They're doing pretty well these days. I really dig that Satya guy. So Microsoft doesn't innovate, they iterate. They wait for somebody else to build the market, then they come in when it's big enough to apply their muscle. Their muscle is billions of users and hundreds of thousands of resellers, and their ability to build a product that's good enough. So they built something called NT Server, which was their network operating system, and something called SQL Server and Exchange Server, and built this small business package out of it, and they ate Novell. They literally ate Novell. Novell was gone within 2 years. And so we saw that happening right when it started happening, and at the same time our customers were asking for a more scalable back-end database. Our VARs were asking for ways to add value, so we built Goldmine Enterprise, which required SQL Server, Exchange Server, and NT Server, and we became Microsoft's #1 ISV. Ballmer did the monkey dance at our conference every year, and that's how we got to $100 million in revenue. And so the parallel to the story is that you can't just stick with one channel and think it's going to take you all the way to the bay. Sometimes you got to get off that wave and get on another wave.
And that wave stopped for about a 10-year period between selling Goldmine, you sold Goldmine, and you started Nimble.
Yes.
When did you decide, and why did you decide to start Nimble after doing one CRM company. You said, I need to get back in the game. You're like the
addict.
Yeah, the addict.
Yeah,
Is that what you were thinking?
No, not at all. So I sold gold mine and I went back to school and got a degree in photography. I shot SC football for 10 years and I was a present dad at home and I raised 3 babies. And Mark, you're a dad.
Yeah.
You know how precious that time is?
Of course.
I feel friggin' blessed that I was able to be a present dad and husband and friend and contributor to the community for that amount of time. But in those years, in 2006, 7, and 8, I started to swim in the social river. And I started to use Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I immediately saw I was gonna change the way we work, play, buy, and sell. And I started looking for a relationship manager that helped me to integrate to social. I couldn't find it. I started looking at contact management and saw that G Suite and Gmail were broken because email, contact, and calendar are 3 separate programs, and you need email and calendar and ideally social linked to contacts. Then I looked at CRM and I was aghast. CRM is supposed to stand for customer relationship management. It's actually customer reporting management. The reason they call it Salesforce, you have to force salespeople to use it. Nobody in their right mind would use a CRM if they weren't beat on to do it, and they aren't social. So I said to myself, this is a business opportunity, and it's like, when I built Goldmine, I built it because I struggled as a business person to manage relationships, and I heard notes in my head, and I built something for myself that turned out to be something that millions of people needed. When I started to use social, I saw how I was going to apply to business, and I knew I needed a social relationship manager, and so I built Nimble, and it turns out that millions of people need the same thing.
Yep. And so you built this solution around your issue that you were having.
My issue.
Yeah. But you also use social media to kind of build Nimble. Tell us about how you did that, how you worked with influencers, how you use social media to build Nimble.
So in the Goldmine days, the Novell reseller had the trusted relationship, and I built relationships through them, early influencer marketing. But in the Nimble days, there were no resellers in the cloud per se. They were still on-prem. And so for me to find somebody who is the trusted advisor of my prospective customer in and around the areas of promise of my product, I decided I'd connect with influencers in social sales and marketing. And so what I did is I started to swim in the river, listen to content that inspired me in and around the areas of promise of my product, and then start sharing that content, hashtagging the category, pound sales, pound marketing, pound social, and attributing the person's name, which did 3 things. Number 1, it has attracted people who are interested in becoming better, smarter, faster at social sales and marketing. It also attracted the community of that influencer, but most importantly, it attracted the influencer themselves. Now, the mistake most people make with influencers is as soon as they get them into a connection, they start to sell them. You shouldn't do that ever. With an influencer, with a prospect or customer, your job in life is to serve others and help them grow. And the best way to do that is to learn about that person, ask them some questions and listen, find ways to add value. And if you do that, they'll fall over themselves to help you. And Mark, that's how you and I met.
That's
because
right.
I started digging your content, I started sharing your stuff, and we got together for a conversation. And we've been friends for a long time now.
Yeah.
And you know what? You help me tell my story, and I help you tell your story, and that's really what life's about.
Yeah. So you've done a wonderful job of building Nimble up,
Yes.
and now you have a great relationship with Microsoft, which I hear is flourishing.
But let's back up.
Sure.
Okay. So when I started Nimble,
Yeah.
there was no Office 365. Microsoft was on-prem with Exchange Server and Outlook. And so Gmail G Suite was the horse I latched onto, just like Novell, because I was the card that layered on top of email, contact, and calendar and Gmail G Suite, and then integrated social. And it was a great relationship. But then Microsoft entered. Microsoft doesn't innovate, they iterate. And they basically came out with Office 365, and because I knew the past, I could understand the present and predict the future. I predicted that Microsoft would eat Gmail G Suite. And so what we did is we built integrations not only to the product of Microsoft products, but built relationships top down in and out of the organization in order to be prepared so that when they did eat Gmail G Suite and they were prepared to dominate worldwide, we were positioned for that. And Mark, you know what it takes to build a relationship with a Goliath, with a mammoth like Microsoft. You can't just do integrations and expect it to happen. You need to build relationships from the executive level to the team level to the field level, and then build a brand within the press to establish yourself as the simple CRM for Office 365, and that's what we've done.
Yep. And I've heard really good things. I still use the Gmail product a lot, though.
Yes.
I wouldn't discount that. It's still working really well.
The way I see it is this. People have a choice. Because today, people use iCloud, Gmail or G Suite, and Office, and maybe even an IMAP account. And so Nimble unifies all your disparate email, contact, and calendar, plus your social, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, but also over 100 SaaS business apps, because every business has something. MailChimp, QuickBooks, something, and all of those different business applications are silos within a company, and so departments don't talk to each other. There is no unified relationship platform for your whole business, and that's what Nimble has evolved into. But most importantly, and the cherry on top of that whipped cream, is Microsoft just signed a deal to resell Nimble with Office 365 through their resellers worldwide, which means I don't have to sign a contract with a new reseller, and I don't have to worry about money or anything. All I do is I share the value of how Nimble is a simple CRM for Office and the gateway drug to Dynamics 365, and the VAR decides to do business with me, and we're done. We just have to do the go-to-market strategy, and we've signed up over 100 Microsoft partners worldwide. Most of them are distributors like Tech Data and companies like GoDaddy and Endurance, and we're on the way, baby.
So tell me, if you're on the way, tell me what the way is to the future. What is where's Nimble headed, and how does influencer marketing play a role in that? Because influencer marketing, I'm seeing it starting to change a little bit, especially when organic content in terms of distribution is being suppressed by, the Facebooks, Twitters, LinkedIn's,
You bet.
Instagram. So where's it going?
So I think it's coming full circle, because influencer marketing used to be Kim Kardashian, right? Or influencers in social sales and marketing like Mark Fidelman. But the reality is that there's micro influencers out there, and this has been true since the early days of Le Tip or your Chamber of Commerce, right?
Yeah.
You forgot that word, didn't you?
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you could figure out how to access the trusted advisor of your prospect, then they could bring you into those accounts. And so there's over 100,000 Microsoft resellers around the world and accountants that sell technology to their customers, and we are scaling relationships with micro influencers of our prospective customers, and then getting other people to tell the story about how Nimble is the simple CRM for Office. And so while we still maintain relationships with people like you, Mark, who we love, I think you can't just keep going to the same trough and expecting it to work. You need to continue to evolve your marketing strategy and your storytelling capability. And so what we're doing is we're starting to work with those micro influencers. And I think that that's something anybody listening to this can do, because if I was selling to a small business, I would want to go through their trusted advisor. In many cases, it's their accountant or their business consultant.
So you heard it here first. He's going to stop working with Kim Kardashian and start working with a bunch of micro-influencers, that being the future of influencer marketing. And Nimble, I suppose. There'll be a Nimble angle in all this.
Well, I think really the angle is that the more people you can help grow, the more you'll grow. And with Goldmine, we had 5 million customers. My goal is 50 million customers with Nimble. And the whole reason I got back in business is I really believe that our job on this planet is to help other people grow. And it's my way of helping millions of businesses grow. And I think that the users of Nimble themselves will become the evangelists that help tell the story globally. And ultimately, it's a recursive model of us helping them grow, and then them helping their friends and customers grow.
Well, on that note, John, I really appreciate you coming by, stopping to talk us about influencer marketing.
Always good, Mark.
Yeah,
Always
we got to
good.
stay in touch. Now we're in the same town.
Yeah, let's hang out. Go walk to the beach.
Yeah, exactly.